What we are seeing today in Sierra Leone is obviously nothing short of success, because the human capital development agenda of this administration is actually anchored on humanity. It's about the people. It's even much more about spirituality and morality, because it takes a leader who understands that it is not about the office, nor about what people would say, to invest in the critical mass of the people who may not even give you votes today, but you are certain that 12, 16 years down the line, that they are going to be happy that someone, as the president they have today, was on stage. So that particular engagement gave us the opportunity to understand that truly we have to reassess how we measure success as leaders in business and politics across all spheres of human development. Suffices to also add that these achievements were recorded under the harshest of economic conditions. The administration was barely settling down when the COVID-19 pandemic hit. But promises have been made, promises have to be kept. And we saw how this administration diligently implemented these promises, especially the free quality education program the administration is currently, maintaining. Some believe it was not possible. Some even dismissed it as a mere political rhetoric. But we have seen, and of course, development partners eventually realized that this is a leader in a different mood who is ready to lead with dignity and responsibility. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, people wonder why we celebrate successes of this nature. We've been doing this in the past 15 years, but we understand in the West we could measure success or, progress or innovation by how many people went to space and who did it first. But in Africa, for people to do things or to create things out of nothing is worth celebrating. We have the odds stacked against us in this part of the continent, but we have consistently seen leaders that refused to be defined by their environment or the things they see or the things people believe about us, but they dare to do things differently. And that's why we are all gathered here today. We also believe in Africa that in the old age, proverb that says that when you honor or encourage kings, they are encouraged to do more. And that's why consistently we've seen that those that we've honored on our platforms have gone on to do more things and even gone on to be recognized by the Nobel Peace community. So it is the same thing that we're doing here in Sierra Leone. Simply retelling the story, simply sharing possibilities, simply saying that there is something happening here that the world has not paid attention. But all that is about to change, because in a few minutes you're going to be seeing the unveiling of the special edition of the magazine, which is a timeless edition, because we felt that that story should not be restricted to a month or two. It shouldn't also be restricted to a year. In 2024, when you pick that edition, it should still resonate with you. So there is something about this country that is yet to be discovered. And I'm hopeful that our guests here today from across the globe who have joined us to celebrate His Excellency will find time to come back beyond the conversations we're going to have today to do business and possibly also establish their roots in this motherland. To help us also celebrate His Excellency's achievement, we've come with distinguished personalities from the United States. We've also come with business leaders from across the continent. But let me just quickly recognize our political leaders that joined us from the United States, flew all the way, because we told them that there is something happening here that needed to be recognized at in DC, in London, and across other world capitals. And let me introduce, or let me welcome, or formally recognize first I'd like to recognize Honorable Laura Hall. A round of applause for Honorable Laura Hall. A round of applause for her. Honorable Laura Hall is the President-elect of the National Black Caucus of State Legislators, the United States. She has been a member of the Alabama House of Representatives since 1993. She has had a long history of promoting the cause of historically black universities in the United States. Recently, in July this year, she facilitated a meeting between the President of the United States, Joe Biden, and the President of the Alabama A&M University, where they discussed investment support for research and development with federal institutions in the United States. A round of applause for Honorable Hall, as she's here with us today. Thank you. Also with us today is Honorable Rosalyn Myers. She is a member. A round of applause for her. Honorable Myers is a member of the National Bar Association of the United States. She's a former judge. She's a member of the South Carolina House of Representatives. She's a member of the Louisiana State Bar Association. She's also a member of the Alabama Bar Association, Florida State Bar Association, South Carolina Bar Association, Pennsylvania Bar Association, and the American Bar Association. She is not today to formally also recognize His Excellency. We also have with us on this delegation Representatives Annie McDaniel. A round of applause for her. She's a member of the South Carolina House of Representatives, a member of the House Committee on Education and Public Works. She's also a member of the Women in Government, WILAND, and the National Organization of Black Elected Legislative Women. A round of applause for her. She's here with us today. Also with us this morning, representing the board of the African Leadership Magazine, well, she's here in, two persons are here in two different capacities. First, I would like to recognize Honorable D. Dawkins Hagler. A round of applause for her. Honorable D is, she's a veteran in African affairs. She was the former chair of the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, one of the most influential voices during her tenure. She was also a two-time contender for the office of the Secretary of State of Georgia. And we are hopeful that in another election, we're going to have her as the Secretary of State of Georgia. A round of applause for her. She's worked with African leadership for a while now. She's visited nearly all the countries on the continent. She's fiercely committed to promoting cross-continental relationship between African Americans and and Africans in the motherland. And that's why she's here today, to also witness firsthand and see how to also tell the Sierra Leone story to the global audience using her platform. Also with us today is another perfect gentleman, a political leader in his mold, and one who has traversed both the business circle and politics. He is also currently the Nigerian ambassador to Jordan and Iraq. And he sits on the board of the on the advisory board of the African Leadership Magazine. His name is Ambassador Farouk Malamiabu, MFR. He's a member of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, recognized by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. They've all come. He's here with his amiable wife. And we've also come on this delegation. A round of applause for her. We have business people from Nigeria. We have business people from Norway, from Jordan, Canada, and across the globe who have come to witness what we are doing today. But beyond this engagement today, they're going to go out of this room sniffing for business opportunities and how to help His Excellency in promoting his human capital development agenda. And of course, let me finally thank you all for coming to be part of this. I'll guarantee you that what you're going to see today will be a quality investment of the few hours of your time. So sit back, relax, and just follow us through this ride as we tell the story as best as we can in this, within the short hours that we have. And to help us take us through the next program on the agenda, I'd like to invite Deputy Minister Mamadi Gobe Kamara. A round of applause for her. She's the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperations.
Your Excellency, President Julius Maada Bio, Honorable Vice President Julde Jallo, Madam Trust Lady, Mrs. Fatima Maada Bio, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to stand on existing protocols. Let me, at the onset, say good morning to you. My role here today is simple. It is to welcome you to this event, the unveiling ceremony of the special edition of the African Leadership Magazine's coverage of the President Julius Maada Bio's National Development Agenda. So, let me begin by saying, you're welcome. It is not every day one has an opportunity to welcome people of your caliber and stature. Therefore, I do not take this lightly. To our international guests, we welcome you to our beautiful Sierra Leone, the land of the great Lion Mountains, a land of incredible geography, scintillating culture, and great people. And guess what? Our nation is experiencing a new dawn. Under the astute leadership of President Maada Bio, in just 4 years, we are dreaming again. Our hope in the greatness of our beloved country is rekindled. And this small but mighty country is taking its rightful place on the global stage. Little wonder, therefore, that a reputable organization like the African Leadership Magazine, ALM, an independent onlooker, has recognized the tremendous achievements of this government and thought it prudent to amplify the story of Sierra Leone to the world. Not long ago, the mere mention of Sierra Leone conjured images of a brutal civil war or of natural disasters, such as mudslides, or of diseases, such as Ebola, or of corruption and other vices. Nowadays, when you talk about Sierra Leone, people anywhere think about a country that is a world leader in women's empowerment, in girl-child education, in press freedom and the rule of law, in good governance, and most importantly, in peace and security. Because of time, let me quickly mention a couple of strides. First, this country of just 8 million people and situated on the west coast of Africa was recently tasked by world leaders and multilateral systems to spearhead global efforts to transform education. It was a direct recognition of the remarkable transformation we have implemented in that sector. Second, in international diplomacy, don't forget, again, I'm Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, so I must talk about our work. In international diplomacy, Sierra Leone is on track to win a seat on the United Nations Security Council. The last time Sierra Leone had such a seat was in 1971, which is more than 50 years ago. I wasn't here, but thankfully I will be here when we assume that seat again. We are witnessing similar progress in health, infrastructure, youth empowerment, the fight against corruption, and so on and so forth. So the evidence of the accomplishments of the BO-led administration is clear for all to see, which is why it is particularly gratifying that the magazine's team has made it its business to showcase Sierra Leone's huge potential and its abundant opportunities. I am aware that the publication has already featured countries in Africa such as Nigeria, Ghana, Gambia, South Africa, Mauritius, Namibia, etc., etc. And it is now the turn of Sierra Leone to benefit from their storytelling. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I was a journalist for the better part of my working years. In fact, I want to believe that journalism still flows in my veins. Once a journalist is always a journalist. I am fully aware of the evolution in the practice of journalism and that we are now in an age of storytelling. But we are also at a point in which journalists must not and cannot be bystanders in national or international development endeavors. After all, a journalist is not an island unto himself or herself. It is therefore incumbent on the ladies and gentlemen of the noble profession of journalism to seek the truth that fosters cohesion and expose the lies that foster division. The ALM was in Sierra Leone in May 2020, like you heard from Kingsley, to seek that truth. The truth that will shine a light on Sierra Leone. That truth that will promote our socio-economic development strides and position this beautiful and peaceful country as an investor's haven. This is what Africans telling our own story simply means. I'd like to convey enormous gratitude to the chairman of the African Leadership Organization, which is the parent company of the magazine, managing editor Kingsley Okeke, and the rest of the team for coming, seeing for themselves, and telling it as objectively as the profession demands. To you, Team ALM, and other international guests, those of you who have traveled from afar, whether you're coming here for the very first time or not, here is a quick recommendation for you. Don't forget to savor our beautiful cuisines and beautiful beaches. Please enjoy the delights of Sierra Leone and have a wonderful stay. Once more, welcome to Sierra Leone. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister, for that wonderful presentation and submission. A round of applause as she takes her seat. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I restrained myself when I was talking about, or doing the introduction, to talk about the African Leadership Magazine, because in about 11 minutes, we're going to show you a documentary about the group that captures the work of the African Leadership Magazine in the past 15 years. There is so much that has happened, but we could only compress it in 15 minutes because we wanted to save your time. So please, you would watch to know where we've done this before, what we have done, and what the African Leadership Organization is about. We are simply about telling the African story from an African standpoint, and also representing the interests of Africans and people of African descent. We only recently realized that beyond Africa, we have Africans living all over the world. We wouldn't leave them out of the conversation. And we have made African Leadership Organization the foremost voice for promoting excellence. If you look around you, this is an ALM touch. This is what we're known for. Our events that we hold in New York, in DC, in London, and all over the world is about taking the story to the people and telling them that beyond the rhetoric about, or the trite headline of hunger, war, and famine that you get from global media, there is so much more happening in the continent, and you can only know when we tell our story. So, Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please watch as we share the African Leadership Magazine story with you.
For far too long, Africa has suffered from negative stereotypes and media bias at the hands of the major Western media organizations. The continent has been described and called by every single challenge faced by the people, including poverty, disease, hunger, and youth unemployment, breeding despair and hopelessness in Africa's young people in our globalized world. As a result, these challenges and illegal migration occasioned by this and other issues continue to be major concerns. But that is not all the story. Africa is home to 6 out of the world's top 10 fastest growing economies. Africa is a tourist haven and an ultimate investment destination with abundant human and mineral resources. So many more positives and progress stories that the Western media selectively ignore, and other times actively suppress.
On our own, we're invisible. But together, if we choose, we could be invincible. And that's the thing for Africa. We don't have to any longer take the nonsense about how other people define us. Let us define ourselves. And we have the genius, we have the knowledge, we have the ability, but also look at our countries. We have the minerals, we have the land, and we have all that which could make Africa the first continent in the world.
Over the last 13 years, African Leadership magazine has committed itself to tirelessly showcasing the best of Africa to a global audience, telling the African story from an African perspective, highlighting unique African solutions to peculiar challenges being faced by the continent today, while standing in defense of African and minority leaders globally that are known for their legacy-based approach to leadership, but unduly attacked by foreign mercenary interest.
I accept to go above and beyond and help Africa make even greater strides. I accept to deliver selflessly. I accept to serve Africa and Africa's interests until the day that I die. But it takes a village. So tonight, please join me by reaching out the hand of the person next to you. Hold them, then tell them, let's do more. Together for Africa. Together we sow. Together we reap. Together we build a better Africa. And give them a high five.
African Leadership magazine and its events and conferences have become the continent's foremost indigenous African-led business platform, helping business leaders, entrepreneurs, and executives develop and deepen their African influence and networks to fast-track their growth story and business interests on the continent. In Africa, where many of the countries are known for weak institutions, poor infrastructure, and some of the world's horrific conflicts, the inspiring example and impact that one truly effective leader exemplifies and transmits is truly powerful and game-changing, not just for the immediate beneficiaries, but for the world. That is why African Leadership magazine have made it our mission to not only discover and celebrate these outstanding African leaders and institutions and position them as agents of change that they truly are, but enable them to continue to inspire and lead effectively, so our world becomes a better place for all.
We aim for the same economic and social progress. Shoulder to shoulder, we will stand together and continue to build an Africa that is free and independent. The struggles of our people and their development aspirations remain fundamentally intertwined with those of fellow Africans elsewhere in our continent.
We continue to publish the bi-monthly and highly rated African Leadership magazine, as well as the gender-focused quarterly Amazon's Watch magazine, and have spotlighted, celebrated, and worked with over 20 African heads of state, over 2,500 the senior African corporate leaders, public servants, and community champions, enabling these leaders to go on to make their communities to become healthier, safer, and more prosperous.
The one who buys what you produce supports your prosperity. Therefore, there must be no sectarianism in Uganda because it fragments our market. Moreover, even the Ugandan market is not enough. We need the African market. Hence, Pan-Africanism is core to our program. With the United African Market, we can negotiate for access to other markets of the USA, China, India, Russia, Japan.
Two of the heads of states we worked with went on to win the Nobel Prize, while our high-level events and work with business leaders have resulted in over $5 billion in deals and more than 500 strategic partnership deals in the last 13 years, creating jobs and opportunities for all. And from a percentage of our corporate profits, we have so far catered and sponsored over 86 indigent African children through their secondary and tertiary education through our Send a Child to School program, our proudest achievement. This is a resurgent Africa, and all of us have a role to play in it. And together, we will bring back the sunshine and sustain the progress that the continent truly deserves. Visit our website and join hands with us as we work towards the eradication of extreme poverty using education as a tool, and the overall attainment of the Global Sustainable Development Goals, both for our benefits and for future generations to come.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that was all we could capture in the short while that we have. But today is not just about the African Leadership Magazine. Like we said earlier, it's about celebrating leadership, legacy, and statesmanship. And what we present to you today is both the digital version of that coverage, as well as also the print version of of that engagement. What you would see very shortly is, I think, about just a little above 14 minutes video of that, a product of that engagement we held in May. This would help us put in context what we've been talking about, this administration's human capital development agenda. There is something, if you have listened through the conversation and everybody that has spoken, and even the guests that you have here, there is something common amongst. They were carefully selected because of their deep belief and passion for education, which is at the core of His Excellency's agenda. So please sit back, relax, as we show you in video form the product of that engagement in May.
These walls shelter one man and his lieutenants, spearheading a revolution to about 8.2 million Sierra Leoneans from the shackles of both poverty of the mind and means. His Excellency, President Julius Maada Bio, is the 5th democratically elected President of Sierra Leone. While other political leaders are obsessed with the next election, President Bio is concerned about the next generation. His New Direction agenda lends credence to his unrivaled love for people. His love for country and citizens led him to embrace a second call to serve, after serving as military head of state from the 6th of 1996 to 29th of March 1996. During his 3 months as head of state, he organized general elections and handed over power to a democratically elected president, refusing to cling to the allures of the office and against the pressure from within and outside the country.
I normally say I stood into politics. It was not my desire to enter politics at that time, nor actually my plan to even get near politics. But I had realized that democratic means were not enough to change the system, and that system had caused a war that was one of our most difficult periods in the history of this country. and they had no hope as to how to resolve it. So we thought it was necessary to come and resolve it for them.
President Mardabio won a popular vote against an incumbent party, pointing to the love and acceptability he enjoys from the young and old in the country. He came on board clear-headed to lead the country's all-around revival.
So for me, it is an existential. I must bring education, fit for purpose education, one that fits into the 21st century, one that will reposition this country for the fourth industrial revolution.
This explains his government's massive investment in human capital development through the Republic of Sierra Leone's medium-term National Development Plan for 2019 to 2023, titled Education for Development. It directly addresses the country's needs and aligns with regional and international development agendas, including the Africa Union Agenda 2063 and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, explained by the Vice President.
Usually when we talk about the manifesto of this country, most of our political development manifesto is geared essentially towards one contact development, which goes to the whole of the heart of the SDG. Majority of those goals are
The Education for Development Plan articulates a new direction for improving citizens' lives through education, inclusive growth, and building a resilient economy. The primary content of the plan is derived from the development vision of His Excellency President Julius Maada Bio and the Sierra Leone People's Party's New Direction Manifesto. The plan is a two-part extensive document, a product of thorough consultation and engagement with relevant stakeholders across the country, and technical contributions from development partners. The New Direction Agenda articulates the country's prevailing challenges and the government's plans to address them. The Chief Minister explains how the government adopted the President's vision and the long-term impact of the agenda.
It is a very difficult decision for us as a party. We have to debate it. The best thing is that we are spending on our voters. When we spend on the time to be it takes a generation, the 2 years before we start to work. So 6 years we're trying to spend on it, 12 more years, and then you go. But this administration will be different. The very critical component of the administration very important. So it's the communication.
At the core of Sierra Leone's development aspiration is its people, its greatest capital. This underpins the PO-led administration's commitment to human capital development, especially providing free quality education for all, which is the central plank of the government's priorities. To match words with action, President Leo announced an increase from 10 to 20% of the country's GDP to the education sector's annual budgetary allocation. This is one of the highest budget allocations for education by any government globally. The government's flagship free quality school education program caters to 2 million pupils nationwide. The program provides tuition-free primary and senior secondary education, school feeding and transportation subsidies, teaching and learning materials, public examination fee subsidies, and special incentives for girls pursuing STEM-based education until university. The Minister for Technical and Higher Education confirms the grant allocation in his interview.
So since 2018, we give the grant for every graduate that applies to access a course in science, technical, medicine.
The Minister for Basic and Senior Secondary Education explains how and why this New Direction agenda is transforming education in Sierra Leone.
The immediate questions became how do we change the foundation of education such that the type of education that everybody was getting was able to be able to fulfill their own potential, that they can participate in the global economy, be civic growth,
President Bio made a promise that the agenda would transform the country into a united, peaceful, progressive, dynamic, confident, enterprising and happy nation, where the people have access to jobs, food, education and healthcare services, and where there is equal justice and equal opportunity for all. Using technology and innovation as the backbone for these advancements, the Director and Chief Operating Officer for the Directorate of Science, Technology and Innovation explains more about how technology and innovation are helping to push the government's new direction agenda forward.
To have an agency set up with the primary objective of using technology and innovation to support government endeavors to deliver on the medium-term strategic plan, I think is a lot of potential. Now, the setting up of the agency was one thing. Other that was really critical was bringing together the youth and young people, dynamic people, who are Sierra Leoneans to drive the process. It's another thing and really has spoken to the gains that we have made thus far.
The agenda is gradually building on the resources-rich West African country into a middle-income nation of the 21st century, where technology and the future of technology are driving the agenda forward.
We must not miss out on that's why all of us five national the Ministry of Information and Communications is charged with ensuring
the VO-led administration has diligently implemented the agenda's offerings, with visible results in the past 4 years. This is evidenced by the progress made, as explained by the Chief Innovation Officer of the Directorate of Science, Technology and Innovation.
The Directorate of Science, Technology and Innovation, ID, and Chief Innovation Officer has 6 months. And the President is really the person who comes to evangelize our digitization and technology and innovation. And the link which we use to why we see that we are basically wanting to do science, why we are planting science, why we are considering the sort of creative
Nabila was one of the key players in the formation of the medium-term strategic plan. And so, you have, I'm not asking to you. Yes.
Inequality in society is, without a doubt, one of the major roadblocks to building a prosperous nation. However, this administration has made inclusion a priority by giving a chance for policy amendments on gender equality in government, amongst other commitments to gender equality. The Minister for Gender and Children's Affairs explains. From inclusion to financing the new direction agenda, the administration has taken steps and continues to see the new direction agenda through to fruition.
The National Revenue Authority over the past 4 years has undergone structural reforms and transformation. And it has instituted tax reforms, policies, and strategies for technical assistance and capacity building.
The VO-led government is addressing the most critical aspects of nation building with its investment in human capital development through its massive investment in education, STEM education, healthcare services, agriculture, and job creation. Under President Bio, good and accountable governance underpins the drive for human capital development, infrastructural development, and economic competitiveness. steadfast in fighting endemic corruption to create an enabling environment where the private sector and investors thrive.
This is why ministry has changed its strategy in fighting corruption in Africa. It's because we have different forms of corruption. Strong laws and also be able to make them fair enough to day-to-day work of corruption.
Each economic sector plays a significant role in bringing the new direction agenda together, from education to health, tourism to marine resources, energy to mining and mineral resources. Each sector minister gives an insight into their contribution to the success of the new direction agenda.
His Excellency the President was right when he prioritized the tourism sector as a good sector. Since the assumption of office of this government, the tourism sector has been a significant role in contributing to the growth of the economy.
So far, we've achieved quite a lot under the new direction administration. We've increased revenue generation from 2017, comparing because it's a renewable resource, people looking at it that is small. But for a small country, we have to manage the waters as well, make sure we put proper management measures so that we don't exploit the resources.
The reforms that have gone over the past 4 years, that's what we need to do. Cheap leadership, cheap money, and bringing some new ways of doing business in those utilities. Because even though they are wholly government-owned utilities, they are, in essence, driven as a private entity. And that was the reason why money was taken away from the mainstream ministry to make them semi-independent bodies.
Between 2018 and 2019, a very significant reform was undertaken. The country had the first minimum policy, the first participant mining policy, and the first geodata mining policy. These are the policies for
prioritize investing in as a critical foundation in this indeed human life testing. Talking how serious we are about this government is. When we took over in 2018, the total investment portfolio for the health sector was about 6% of GDP. In 20 years, we've raised to about 11.6, nearly 12%. We've expanded the healthcare portfolio to cover over 1,500 sites and primary healthcare sites, such that 85% of the population has health facility within 5 kilometers of radius.
You don't have to stray too far to see that Sierra Leone's economic growth and reconstruction have been steady and sturdy under the BOL administration, despite the socio-economic implications of the COVID-19 pandemic across the globe. President Bio's leadership acumen is coveted across the continent and globally. From ECOWAS, the AU to the UN, President Bio has contributed meaningfully to addressing some of the most pressing issues confronting leadership in the continent and international arena.
Sitting here, I can make a change, which I couldn't do 2 years ago when I was just working president. So I would want to appeal to all colleagues in Africa, in whatever leadership position we are in, to be an instrument to have an influence.
As a true statesman, President Julius Maada Bio has committed his entire life to serve Sierra Leone, the land that he loves, from cradle to adulthood. The Sierra Leone of dreams has appeared on the horizon, and as a sustained pattern, as established by the President and his able team, will no doubt get us there sooner than later. As we march on to the promised land, we are confident that history will be kind to President Julius Maada Bio and his team for making Sierra Leone a country set on a hill for the benefit of all Sierra Leoneans.
Thank you so much. I'm sure we want to give another round of applause for so much as has been captured in so few minutes, quite succinctly. It's been a very, very compact account of all that has been going on. Thank you so much for the wonderful work that you have been doing in this magazine. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we want to continue the program. And at this point in time, we'll pay rapt attention as we listen to some goodwill messages. More especially, we would like those messages to come from some key players, more especially in the formation of the medium-term strategic plan. Therefore, I have great pleasure in inviting Minister Nabila Tunis, Minister for Western Region, to come forward and give us the first of the goodwill messages. Minister Nabila Tunis. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, Dr. Julius Maada Bio, the Honorable Vice President, our First Lady, Madam Fatima Bio. Permit me, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to stand on existing protocols. Ladies and gentlemen, I am deeply honored and absolutely delighted to briefly share with you my experience as the lead pioneer and author of the Sierra Leone National Medium-Term Development Plan 2019 to 2023. Since it was launched in February 2019 by His Excellency the President, Dr. Julius Maada Bio, whose vision for our nation informed the core components of the plan, the Medium-Term National Development Plan has been widely acclaimed for the consultative and inclusive method adopted in its preparation process, and more importantly, for its detailed content that covers every aspect of the country's medium-term future.
Time management, yeah.
The plan, which we titled Education for Development, as advised by His Excellency the President, highlighted almost all the socio-economic, environmental, technical, and cultural issues affecting every community and categories of persons in Sierra Leone.
Just go. Yeah.
The 8 policy clusters on human capital development, diversifying the economy, infrastructure, governance, and accountability, empowering women, children, and persons with disability, youth empowerment, sports and migration, and addressing vulnerabilities and building resilience were carefully crafted in the document to reflect the actual development desires of every Sierra Leonean. Under each policy cluster, the team looked at several dimensions of the theory of change, which is essentially a review of the baseline of where we are and establishing where we wanted to be in the next 5 years as a country. So, for example, under the Human Capital Development Cluster, the team underscored the appalling state of education access, quality, inclusion, and outcomes in the country at that time. The next step was to set specific and reasonably ambitious targets to be achieved by 2023 for each of these areas identified. We then proposed critical policy actions to be undertaken by all relevant stakeholders to meet the identified targets within a specified time frame. We did the same for agriculture and energy under the infrastructure and economic competitiveness cluster, and so on. I must reiterate that one unique feature of this plan that distinguishes it from other previous plans is the emphasis on implementation and results tracking. Thank you, Mr. President, for that intervention. Esteemed listeners, another important aspect that we insisted must be addressed under each cluster was risk analysis and mitigation. You may recall that in 2014, two major shocks, notably the Ebola virus disease and crash in world commodity prices, crippled the development trajectory. We knew that as we aim to develop a great plan with a well-thought-out implementation framework, there may be some natural and even man-made disasters that might undermine its effective implementation. Therefore, on the advice of His Excellency the President, the team proposed several adaptable mitigating antidotes to cushion the impact of future shocks on the implementation of the plan. This consideration proved effective in 2020 when COVID-19 struck unexpectedly and the ensuing global economic crisis brought the world to the brink of collapse. We're all aware of the far-reaching impact that COVID and the resultant financial crisis had on developed and developing countries, including Sierra Leone. Had it not been for the smart and preemptive policy recommendations by His Excellency the President to mitigate unforeseen shocks, things could have been a lot worse for all of us. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I could spend the rest of the day telling you about the attributes of the medium-term National Development Plan and how it is steering our country in the right direction. But let me share stories of how we were chased out of my office at 2 a.m. in December 2018 by a mouse, which I suspect was let in by my staff deliberately because they knew about my phobia for rodents and creepy crawlies. I also recall the late Herbert MacLeod of blessed memory saying after reading the umpteenth version, "Are you making a plan for heaven?" I recall the endless days of slicing and rearranging, the not so pleasant conversations with some, the twists and the turns. But this we took all in our stride because we had the constant engagement and guidance from His Excellency the President. After that slight digression, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, permit me to take this conversation to the aspect that arguably made the development of this internationally acclaimed document a grandiose success. And that is a consultation process that involved all stakeholders in country and beyond. This nationwide consultation, which His Excellency the President insisted we must use to inform our general development analysis and ultimate content of the plan, not only ensured that the views and development aspirations of all our people are reflected in the document, but more importantly, the approach engendered nationwide ownership of the plan. Having established the various committees to support the development of the plan, the consultation process started at the national level with all government ministries, departments, and agencies, and continued with interactive engagements at the local and community levels. Accordingly, the plan preparation team visited every district, chiefdom, wards. We spoke to the women, the children, our youths, the aged and disabled, religious leaders. We interacted with pupils, teachers, artists, miners, nurses, entrepreneurs, chiefs, councillors, parliamentarians. We drank attaya, ate cookery, rode motorbikes, plowed farms, cast nets, danced as featured in the medium-term music video. We spoke to Sierra Leoneans abroad, and above all, we prayed to God really hard. Essentially, every nook and cranny of this country was visited by the team of development experts to solicit information that helped enrich the medium-term National Development Plan. His Excellency the President also insisted that government should provide the bulk of the funding, and therefore 95% of the funding was provided by government. Also, our bilateral and development partners, especially the UNDP and World Bank, provided immense technical and other support. In addition to the review of the various manifestos of all the political parties represented in the current parliament, the team also held a one-day consultative meeting with political party representatives at the PPRC office. This multi-partisan approach, which was also insisted on by His Excellency the President, has ensured that majority of Sierra Leoneans, irrespective of their political persuasion, have given reasonable support to the plan implementation process across the country. In fulfillment of Your Excellency's directive, and in line with the principle of leave no one behind, we reached over 2 million Sierra Leoneans in over 170 engagements. As I conclude, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, permit me to thank His Excellency the President for his unreserved guidance and support to the plan preparation process. More importantly, I must state here, Your Excellency, that your broad vision for achieving sustainable development in the country made a visibly daunting task manageable for me and my team. We are extremely grateful, sir. May I also use this opportunity to thank all those officials who served on the plan preparation governance structure, including the National Oversight Committee, the Core Technical Committee, cluster working groups, and the Plan Preparation Secretariat. Their steadfastness and commitment to national service are worthy of admiration. My greatest gratitude, again, Your Excellency, through your directive, sir, is also to the ordinary Sierra Leoneans, who through your insistence we interacted with regularly. They provided their unflinching support to the entire process. We all made history together because you allowed us and you gave us an opportunity. They opened up and let us in. We bonded and we learned a lot. And I will ever remain proud of this history. The first ever people-centered national development plan for the land that we love, our Sierra Leone. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Minister Nabila Tunes. In fact, that was an eye-opening testimony. I mean, little will what imagine the amount of energy and time that went into the construction of that plan. And we're very, very proud to see the wide web of consultation, 2 million people in 170 meetings, and then 95% government support, financial. Give her another round of applause. Wonderful episode. Indeed, we will go to another goodwill message, and I suppose we're about to hear another testimony of participation in the construction of the strategic plan. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let us pay rapt attention as I invite the Honorable Vice President of the Republic of Sierra Leone to come and share our second goodwill message.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Your Excellency, Dr. Julius Marabio, our First Lady, Madam Fatima Marabio, my sister, honorable ministers, distinguished guests, kindly permit me to stand on existing protocol. First, I want to take the opportunity to thank the African Leadership Magazine for this golden opportunity given to me to speak on the achievements of His Excellency, the President. The TOR
that was clearly given to me was to catalog the achievements of His Excellency's led government, and more so look into the future. Where do we move on from human capital development in the next couple of years? As the principal assistant of His Excellency, I follow him religiously. I have been part of his thinking process, as well as somebody that participates in the rollout of the policies and programs. There's no doubt that His Excellency came in with a very strong conviction and leadership on human capital development. This conviction is rooted in his firm belief that development is about people. In his words, I have to put Sierra Leoneans at the center of our development prospect. The president usually, for those of us that are very close to him and spend most of our time with him, usually tells a story how most times in private and in public, how education has shaped his life and transformed him. He said, as a result, he wanted to give that opportunity to Sierra Leoneans as well. This largely explains his manifesto commitment to roll out the free quality education. I'm not going to bore you with some of the critical achievements in that sector, which has been clearly documented in the documentary, but I'll limit myself to doing the statistics to add a lot of weight to the narrative here. Today, when we came in, His Excellency told us clearly that free quality education is my flagship program, and I need the resources to go with it. We saw progressive increase in the budgetary allocation to that sector. Today, since 2018, His Excellency's government has spent nearly $1 billion over 4 years. I'm averaging about 20% of the GDP. Today, through that program, we are supporting about 1 million students through transition exams. We have provided close to 10 million textbooks in this country. This government continue to open technical institutes across districts. About 60% of all students in tertiary education today are supported by government. After 4 years of free quality education, we have more girls in school today, and we are keeping them in school, and more students in Sierra Leone are passing public exams today. His government continue to invest in teacher recruitment, remuneration, and training. As a government, we have spent and invested grossly in renovating and building over 500 classrooms, provided more stipend to schools. Over 80% of schools today in this country are getting government support. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, these outcomes has made His Excellency one of the 5 global champions for transforming in the transformation of the Education Summit. On health, already in the documentary, the Minister of Health has clearly stated that when we came in, the average budget line on health was 6%. We have gradually closed that gap. Today, we are spending 11.7% in health. We have supported the recruitment of additional 4,000 health workers added to the payroll. Today, in this country, as a result of the vision of His Excellency, we have 13,089 health workers on the payroll. We have also doubled the number of doctors from 197 in 2018 to 410. We have increased nurses recruitment to about 60%. Today in sub-Saharan Africa, Sierra Leone, on the ratio of nurses to doctors, we are ahead of so many other sub-Saharan African countries. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the investment we have made in the health sector have no doubt shown itself in some of the critical statistics that is now being quoted across so many health magazines in this country, including the British Journal of Medicine. For example, in the last couple of years, we have reduced mortality rates, maternal mortality rates, from 1,115 to about 717. That has been a 38% decrease. We have also decreased infant mortality rate by 22%. We continue to expand and support the infrastructure for healthcare delivery. For the first time in the history of this country and in most sub-Saharan African health budget, His Excellency insisted that we are going to include nutrition in the budget. This came as a result of the fact that during the campaign of our First Lady over the country and His Excellency's visit to so many hospitals, we realized that one of the critical challenges to fight maternal death is to support the first 1,000 days the pregnant woman and under 5 kids with nutrition. We realized that 1,000 days from the time the woman gets pregnant to delivery, because it is the conviction that if you have a malnourished pregnant woman, the tendency for that malnourished pregnant woman to give birth to a malnourished baby is very high. As a result, the government took the bold step to introduce nutrition as a budgeted line. That is a landmark not only in Sierra Leone, but in so many other sub-Saharan African countries. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to just touch on briefly on governance. Over the last 4 years, His Excellency has made tremendous leap in the governance landscape. Today, make no mistake, the country's human rights rating is at the highest, and it has stayed there since we came in. Women empowerment. Women empowerment have already been spoken of. Today, we are also championing a big leap in that area. We are getting more girls to school, and we are developing innovative strategies to keep them in school. And we are also rolling out progressive laws and reforms to strengthen and enhance women empowerment. Since we came in 2018, we have progressively been rated across the globe through the MCC that this country, under the leadership of His Excellency, we are qualified for a compact in Sierra Leone. And for those of you who know, to qualify for a compact entails rigorous scrutiny of the governance profile of that country. So passing the MCC scorecard explains the huge leap we have made in that. For the first time also in the history of this country and in most sub-Saharan Africa, we have established a forum that we call the Civil Society Government Dialogue Series. This is also something that is being repeated, copied in so many other African countries, because we realize that if you leave civil society out, if you don't engage civil society in development planning and development implementation, then you create space for civil society not to know the work of government. So this government is transparent. We are holding dialogue. We are in civil society interact directly with government. That is a very laudable platform agenda. Freedom of speech. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that is another one area where His Excellency has made serious international marks. We have repealed Part 5 of the Seditious Libel Act. Today, journalists, not only in Sierra Leone, but across the globe, are hailing that we have abolished the death penalty. That has also made waves. And believe you me, if somebody that is very active in the social media, if you follow the stories in the social media, you realize that the European Union president, the president of the European Union Commission, and so many leading personalities in the world personally sent a Twitter message to the world congratulating Dr. President Julius Maada Bio for the abolishment of the death penalty. And so many other countries are trailing behind that feat. In the area of transparency and accountability, the Commissioner of the Anti-Corruption Commission has already made mention of that. We have been scoring, we have been improving the index and the international measurement. Barely when we came in from 43%, now we are in the 80s, and we intend to keep that. The second part of the TOR is to look to the future. We know, like the director of the African Leadership magazine just said, that all of these achievements are taking place against a very difficult time, not only in the history of Sierra Leone, but in the world and sub-Saharan Africa. COVID-19 came in, and then coupled up with the Ukrainian crisis, we are able to do all of this. Usually, His Excellency tells us that what COVID-19 and the Ukrainian crisis has taught us is the vital need to build a productive sector. When we realize the global increase in food prices and how most sub-Saharan African countries have moved from a politics of capital investment to a politics of redistribution, this government has no doubt focused its attention on the productive sector. While we continue to make huge investment in the social sector, we are also focusing on the productive sector. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I remember in 2017, when I was in the company of His Excellency, where we visited the Kingdom of Morocco, together with Dr. Abbas Bundu and Sidi Tunis. I was driving in the car with His Excellency to visit one of his friends in Morocco, in Rabat, in that evening. His Excellency asked me two questions. He said, do you know that Morocco does not have petrol? He said, do you know that Morocco does not have mineral resources? He said, Morocco did what they are doing today because they invested in the productive sector. And I believe, I don't know if the Moroccan model must have inspired His Excellency. So His Excellency have been focusing essentially on building a bridge between the social investment that we are doing today and the future of the productive sector. Because he believes that we need to build a solid basis for a trade-dependent economy. That any country who wants to develop has to trade with the partners. But before you trade, you have to produce. And that is the focus we continue to make. We have made huge investment in the productive sector because we believe the productive sector is the bridge that we are going to build to the future. Some of this investment, if you want to develop the productive sector, you have to invest in critical areas, particularly in infrastructure to support the productive sector. The one critical area is energy. When we came in here, the energy we had in this country was what you call utility energy. We need to make a shift from utility energy to productive energy, which means you need to have the energy sector that can drive production and also be able to build the kind of industry you need to create a trade-dependent economy. To do that, we invested massively in the energy sector. Today, in this country, we have increased access of energy from 16% to 30%. We have also operationalized the CLSG line, power major line. This line runs across major districts where you have major mining companies, and also encourage companies to go and set up industries where I have a major uninterrupted supply line. That is, this line is running through Bo, Kenema, and now extended to Kono, and even comes to Freetown. That is one big investment. We have also working strongly. We have already released money to develop the 7-district headquarter electrification project. These are headquarter districts that don't have regular supply or have never seen electricity supply. And His Excellency has mandated, and we are already working on that, and work is far gone. We continue to invest a lot of money in the rehabilitation and expansion of network and transmission line, because the critical challenge we had before in this country is that even if you generate electricity, but the infrastructure for transmission and distribution was very weak. So this government is investing in that. We have also increased generation, electricity generation. In addition to the grid, this government have also invested in what we call off-grid solar solution. We have 85 mini-grids that is impacting nearly 240,000 people. If you go to these villages, you realize that those grids have transformed life. Today, you also have a nocturnal economy that grows around some of these villages. Another critical area for developing the productive sector is digital expansion. We realize that the world is moving, and you need to make the necessary investment and put across the policy that you need to expand digital infrastructure. This government, under His Excellency's watch, has taken bold steps to engage in reform to increase the uptake and the use of digital technology. Today, we have promoted investment in this sector to expand the digital space. We have expanded the fiber infrastructure to five additional districts. We have also increased, since we came in, we have increased the use of internet from 300,000 in 2017 to 2.67 million people in Sierra Leone today have internet access under this administration. We have also taken additional investment to transform our economy to a digital economy. We have a 5-year plan that is being supported by the World Bank over the next couple of days. Another critical area for the productive sector is the road network. Because if you produce and you want to trade, you have to have the road network that goes with it. We are also building roads. His Excellency have decided to choose 2 major roads in this country. One is in the eastern part that connects Guinea and Mali. The other one is in the north that connects also Guinea. The second one, which is a 73-kilometer road, connects Farana, and that is a project that is called the Kabbalah to Farana Highway. Because we believe when you build those critical roads, the other one in Kono is a 78-kilometer road. It connects Guinea Forestry and links up to Mali as well. If you build those roads, and then when you have the kind of resources, when you produce goods, you'll be able to deliver them. And also we are building bridges to enhance connectivity and trade, so that communities that produce, communities that involve in agriculture will be able to get across and sell their goods. And make no mistake, when you look at the critical enablers of the African Free Trade Agreement, the whole idea behind it is to trade with your neighbors. It is the conviction of His Excellency that you have to build a trade-dependent economy. And we usually tell our friends in the Africa Trade-Free Agreement that building roads is critical to that, and 2 major roads we are doing and building bridges. Today, in this country, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, since 2018, we have built a couple of factories. We have opened up factories in so many areas in the agro-business. The documentary have shown them. Today, Sierra Leone, since 2018, we are exporting to other countries in the agro-business. We are exporting oil to Nigeria, to Cote d'Ivoire, to Senegal, to Mali, and to Guinea. We are exporting 2 categories of oil. We are exporting crude oil, that is the raw palm oil, as well as the cooking oil. Even outside of Africa, we export CFO, because today Sierra Leone is the largest producer of raw palm oil in Africa. That is what we have been doing. In addition, we also export soap noodles. We export fish to countries in the sub-region. This just tells you some of the investment that is paying up in the productive sector. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to make a very strong link into the future. We realize that job creation is a priority for His Excellency. Job creation, we believe that the investment we are making in the productive sector is going to be tied closely for job creation. Because if you take today the number of live births in Sierra Leone, in 2021 alone, 241,558 kids were born in Sierra Leone. Over 240,000 kids per year. If you take that, and then you take the opportunity that is being given to these kids by His Excellency to go to free quality education, then the chances of all those 2.7 million kids that are benefiting the free quality education today have a greater chance to go to university. Today you have about 300,000 young kids in tertiary and technical higher education. We have to cater for them. We have to create the kind of space they need to get into the job market. That is why His Excellency says that in his vision, he wants to tie the productive sector to the future of job creation. And that is essentially what we are doing. Our investment in the productive sector largely supports the prioritization and emphasis we place on agriculture. His Excellency, agriculture is one of the most important sectors that is close to His Excellency's heart. Let me give you a secret. If you want to get an appointment very quick with His Excellency, just tell him you have somebody that wants to invest in agriculture. I hope that His Excellency's phone will not be bombarded with everybody that wants to invest in agriculture in the next couple of days. Or else he will send a VP in jazz than so. Thank you very much. Agriculture is one critical area in the productive sector. And we see it not only as an opportunity to help us build a trade-dependent